Sorry, there were some technical issues. So, what made me reflect? Okay, where is the beauty? In Maitri or Dana, or is it mine, my beauty? Because like people were complimenting him because the dogs are beautiful. Why would it be me? It's not something that is up to me. It's like someone that has a beautiful car and feels special because he has a beautiful car, but the car is beautiful, not you. I have a beautiful dress, and the dress is beautiful, but there is a fundamental difference between being and having. And there are some times that we get confused and we become through what we have. And also the term having is delicate. Because according to me, the only things that we can truly possess are those that no one can take away from us. I can have patience, I can have kindness. The other things are conventions where I have the right to use it. There are conventions that we use, that we have on some certain rights that we define as mine, that I can use it, I have access to use it whenever I want. So the fact is that we identify sometimes in things that we believe of having, and we also try to nourish the image of what we are through what we believe of having. And according to what one believes of possessing, does that change one's identity or not? Yes. I've seen like something that, for example, made me smile a lot, like similar to this dog situation. At a certain point, there in Abbagnano, there is a little house in the woods, and in order to get there, you have to cross two rivers, two small rivers. And so I tried to find a car that allowed me to get there, and I found a used Jeep, and I was actually quite lucky in the search, and I found like a nice Jeep used in good conditions. And it's interesting how they look at you differently when you drive that car. It seems that you're like something different. And there I faced, I stumbled upon something that I didn't know before. That is the identity of someone that has an off-road car. That usually one that has a big car that can go off-road and all these things. This kind of things, there is an identification, like where one identifies with certain characteristics or not, whether one has a sporty car or a certain kind of car or another. It goes somehow to connect with the identity of the person. And there it made me laugh because like to me, I need that car because I need to cross two torrents and I always need to go off road and it's always dirty from mud because of that. But I've seen the identity of having the off-road car and not never going off-road. That car I bought it with 160,000 kilometers and never went off-road once, not even once. I destroyed it much more me in a little short time rather than what it was being used before. And so we identify in certain things that are not us. To have a certain kind of house, to have a certain kind of car, to have a certain kind of dress. I don't know, we can go on 1,000 different things. We very often, what we want to nourish through these objects is our identity. I don't know if we can identify ourselves with it. That can be many different ways. It's just not simply the matter of having to dress up in an expensive way. There is also that who wants at all costs to dress in a poor dress because he wants to transmit like the image of a humble person. But you're not what you transmit in that sense. We are not what the others think of us. And so, whether I have a certain kind of dress, or whether I have a house of a certain kind, or a car, or whatever else, are characteristics of the house, of the car, of the clothes, and so on. They don't change what I am. But we need some effort to get into this because we have the tendency of identifying ourselves with this, don't we? Once a person, I remember, was speaking about these very expensive objects. To make an example, in that case, she was talking about an expensive bag. At the end, okay, you can fit the same amount of stuff there. There are so many bags that can be beautiful, but that are worth less. But then there is someone that says, no, but these are objects of power. It's to show that I can, that I am. And we live in a society where, anyway, through the objects, we transmit some characteristics. And I can also say that in some contexts, you can also use this in a wise way. But I am in a certain context, and I have to kind of create a certain context of trust, or whatever according to the situation. Then it makes difference. I don't know, if I go and have an interview for a job and I am dressed with a pajama, I am really good at doing like that job, but maybe I pass an image that is different from the one that the person will want for that job. And so then there is also a place of respect of the conventions. And my point is deeper, and it's that it's about how much me myself I project my identity, and I feel special, I feel beautiful, I feel great, and this and that for the things that I have that are not mine. Not really mine in the sense that they don't deeply belong to me. Whether my son or daughter, or my father or my mother, or whatever, whoever else is good, is great, what does it change of who I am? But can one feel proud for his own son, or the other way around? Ah, look, my son, it's his merit, not yours. I don't know if this is clear. I know that it's maybe a bit difficult sometimes to assimilate, but the point is not to point the finger at others. The point is to look at ourselves and to ask ourselves, actually, when how much do we give value to the being, and how much to the fact of having? Of course, we can't go from one thing to the other, like from 0 to 100 and 100 from to 0. We can't do this, but by observing bit by bit how much importance I give to what I am, and how much importance I give to what I have. There is nothing wrong in having, but from my point of view, having is more like a matter, a functional matter. I have something that serves for that function. If I need to solve that function, then I need that object. I need to go from point A to point B in a comfortable to point B in a comfortable way. I have a goal. What is the best way to do that? I have a mean to do that. Okay, then it's good. I remember once a friend of ours that then is the man that offered to the center this place, which is Franco. And many years ago, he was invited in London to a meeting of fundraising to buy a new private plane for a master that I think it was Maharishi, an Indian master at the time. And he initially was like, okay, why does a spiritual master need a private plane? But anyway, he went there to this meeting, and there it came out that this master at the time, okay, it was much before internet. We were talking about the 80s or something like that. I don't know exactly. He was doing something like 250 conferences a year in the whole world. He was traveling, and he himself had learned to pilot, and so this allowed him to constantly be today here and tomorrow there, and to travel the whole world in those few years that he had of life in the West, and he did it really a lot. It was not a matter of like a luxury, it was just a function. I have something that I want to offer to various places in the world. I must be able to go from point A to point B with a certain speed, and I have a tool that allows me to do that. And so, what it's about here, it's okay to have, but let's remember that the things that we have a function for us. The thing starts to not work very well when what I own doesn't have a function anymore, but is more like just a simple fact of owning that for my own identity, or it's a matter of attachment where the final goal is to own that thing. It's not a matter of having a function. One of the questions that we can ask ourselves is to look at something that we own and to ask ourselves, are you at my service, or am I at your service? People need goods and goods need owners. So once that you own something, that you need to serve that thing, you need to take care of it, clean it, protect it, and be careful here and there. And yeah, there is a lot of work behind the things that we own. But at the end, life passes, and what counts the most is not what we have, it's not what the others think, or how the others see us, but who we are in the inside. And it's here that in the Buddhist teachings there is a part that is called the Arya jewels, that goes in contrast to what is called the illusory wealth, which are basically those things that we believe that we own, but that we can lose. Someone can take us away. When we die, we definitely will lose them. Are material things mostly, but uh, jewelry, the jewels of the Arya, the Aryas are those that manage to get out of the cycle of suffering, are referred to faith, to knowledge, to love, to patience, and so on. They are the qualities, the inner qualities. And here, the importance that even from a point of view, so to speak, materialistic, if we look at the really practical material reality, at the end, it's worth much more to have some good personal characteristics, to be a person with a clear mind, stable, with a good intelligence, a good resilience, a good capacity of being able to face difficulties, looking for solutions, a good capacity of empathy, and so on. That rather than having many material resources. If I look at people that did really special things in this world from the point of view that is purely materialistic, like great entrepreneurs, people that created things were able to do great things, it's not because they started with a great richness, but it's because they had intuition, intelligence, enthusiasm, and so on. And so it's about the qualities that we have inside, the characteristics of what we are, rather than what you accumulate. Also, because the situations that we live, they start and then they end. That thing, I have it today, tomorrow, no. But what I am inside of me, I bring it with me everywhere I go, in whatever situation I find myself. And here comes the importance of being able to slowly cultivate this aspect more and more, and to give priority to this. Because I have the feeling that sometimes we have very clear the concept of saving. Also, Italy is a place of savers. Okay, we have the concept of sparing a little money and to buy a private house. But in the meanwhile, the concept of the inner saving, so to speak, like to accumulate patience, to accumulate gratitude, to accumulate satisfaction, to accumulate joy, to decrease hatred, anger, to decrease dissatisfaction, and so on. Because it's not like something that happens from one day to the other, it's like a constant work, it's like a very long path. There is the part of accumulating knowledge. And one of the things on which I was reflecting in these days is that, on one hand, looking at myself, I get a little bit worried in the sense that, okay, it's not that I'm thinking too much about it, but when I think about it, I get worried a little bit. It's about the fact that one thing is to have material things, and in any case, to understand that the material things that I own must be at my service, but I am not those things. And so the importance of being able to being rather than having. Another thing that comes also is that we somehow are doing a strange thing that is similar, not equal, but similar with knowledge. I was reading a passage of the ancient Greeks that I liked a lot, that was talking about, now I don't remember the right terms, but there was this god that invented writing, and he goes to this king and says, look, that I wanted to make you this gift for you, and I invented writing. And with this, the concepts will be able to last for centuries, and the memory will not be lost, and so on. Imagine, let's imagine that there is no writing, and someone comes and gives us writing. Will we be grateful? Yes. And this king says, writing by itself is not neither good or bad. First of all, it depends on how you use it. There is the great danger that in having information and knowledge outside of oneself, and in having it in custody outside, then at the end one believes that owns that, where actually he doesn't. In other words, by having great libraries and believing that we are wise because there are so many things inside books, I can own the whole library, but what I haven't assimilated inside of me, then it's not there. Also because when we are in front of a situation where we have to take a decision to find a solution and so on, the decision that we take, the action that we do, uses as a point of reference the knowledge that we have already assimilated inside of us. It's not that in that moment you go there, you take the book, you ask to the artificial intelligence, or you take the book, who knows where, and it's what's inside of ourselves that is assimilated, that works also on a non-conceptual level, non-rational. The information work together and help us to have clarity, have judgment. When we are in front of a situation and we need to judge, discern, like this is like this, that is like that, this is fine, that is not fine. I listen to someone talking, can I trust or not? What are the means that we have in order to be able to judge, in order to be able to discern correctly our own experience and our own knowledge, but the one that is assimilated inside? I can have a whole library also cataloged in a perfect way, and I can have all the tools of artificial intelligence that make all the summaries of the word. When I need to decide, when I need to judge, when I need to discern, the tool that I have at my disposal is what is inside of me, not what's outside. And there is a place with writing where there actually is like a danger that happens. That is the danger of feeling that I own some knowledge that I actually don't own. I take note, I have that in the notes. Yeah, fine. As long as you haven't memorized it and everything, then you don't have it. You have like something outside of you, but you don't have it inside those things. I've seen this when we were studying in the south of India, in the monastery, the Sera monastery, where in dialectics and debate you have to memorize a lot of things. Because then, when you would actually discuss, and we would do between 3 to 8 hours a day of debate, then you will go there to debate on something. Maybe, okay, you will debate on bodhicitta. And one would ask you, what is bodhicitta? It's not that you could go and take the book. You needed to have the information memorized. Something was missing in the middle. But you memorize it, and then, okay, as you've seen, the living example, when one doesn't recite it for a while, then memory is a bit lost. When you don't use that knowledge, also, it is lost. The meaning, okay, I remember the meaning, I never remembered it many times, but the specific term in Tibetan, in this moment, I am missing like a part in the middle. What happens is that when we had to memorize, the more you memorize, the more you learn to memorize, the more you train yourself in memorizing. When you are in the moment of debate, you don't have the time to go and take the books, look here and there, because our mind doesn't work in a way that is so superficial. It's much more deep, the links that it makes in order to understand things, in order to discern, and so on. But this is not useful only in the moment of debate. It's useful in life in general. And what we are seeing also from the social point of view, is that there is a greater polarization. For example, in politics. For example, as we have seen already during COVID times with vaccines, also other matters. But the fact is that here in Italy, in Brazil, kind of everywhere, there is this strong polarization. And one of the causes of this, according to me, is the lack of capacity of discernment. Because when I don't have assimilated the knowledge inside of me, the experience, and I find myself in front of something, and I don't have means to be able to distinguish, discern, judge with clarity, at the end, I am much more inclined to be manipulated. What one says, then it seems like it, and I just follow it because I don't have the means to discern. I have also did some trials with artificial intelligence, which also evolves like at tremendous speed. So you can't really say, okay, an experience that I had 3 months ago already is not so valid today. For, but to ask some questions about subjects that I understand well, like a niche subjects, and it said so many stupid things. And then when I ask something about a subject that I don't understand, that I don't have the basis to be able to discern, then one just trusts that. But the problem is that we are strange. The moment that I have something that is written there, I have the book, I have someone that can answer me there, we have this sort of external memory, which is not memory. For as much as it seems memory, the fact that I am able to access to that information whenever I need, it doesn't mean that I have that information. And when I need it, then I'm not able to access it when I need it most, because I don't need it when I am there to read it, but in those moments where I don't have the time to ask, because it happens on a non-conceptual level, a non-rational level. And so both on about reading, to have many books is quite useless if we don't read them. To read books hurriedly, hastily, without assimilating what they say, it's not very useful. Okay, it serves to something, but not much. Like for example, in my years of study, I did the experience of studying some subjects by reading and receiving the explanation, and by just reading them, and by reading them, receiving the explanation, and debating on them. So verbalizing, asking questions, getting into the details. There are some subjects where in 1.5 pages of we have like spent weeks debating, spending between 3 to 8 hours a day. And those on which I debated, I will not forget them. That they have got inside, they will stay there for life. Those that I just read, yes, they went in. Some things that impressed me deeply, they stay there. The other things, who knows where it is. I hope that somewhere it remained, but I'm not sure what it is, if it's there. And there are teachings, some teachings that I received I remember that they have been beautiful, but not much more than that. I remember like a teaching in Nepal when I went to one of my masters, Kyabche Dragon Rinpoche, and I remember that I was so happy, joyous, how beautiful those teachings were. They lasted 15 days, and I don't remember one of them. Definitely some information here and there has remained, and I hope that the day that I will get the text of those subjects, then I still have something there that is accessible. By my experience is that external memory, it's quite useless. And it's not for nothing that it's important to study. I have a friend, I don't remember his name also because I never called him by name, but I had many moments with him, and he was a priest from Australia that was teaching phenomenology at the university. And once we were together in Tibet with a big group, and then he came to visit me in Nepal. Once we were talking at length, and he already passed away. Maybe he was like 60 years older than me. And he was a person that once explained me, why do we study at school? Why do we learn? Why do we study all those things? Because I ask you, the subjects that you have studied at school, how much of those subjects do you actually need? Majority? 1/3? I think that's already quite a lot. Maybe less, maybe more. But what is say the point of school, of he was also teaching at school and everything. The point of school is not that you study to acquire information. You study in order to learn how to study, uh, how to learn. So because mind gets trained according to what you do. So as you're studying, of course, okay, you learn that some concepts that allow you also to learn other things which are fundamental, but we also train the mind to be able to learn. So as we go on, then we want to study something, then we want to learn something. The mind is awake. Mind is um, I think it was last week that I was talking about this rule of the minimum effort, the law of the minimum effort. our brain has this capacity where it sees that no energy is required, then it takes it away from there. So when we stop doing something, the energy is taken away from that thing, and that capacity is lost, both on the physical level and on the mental level. And it's quite scary, because it's a bit like a friend of mine that can draw very well. Okay, I'm a disaster at drawing, and once we were talking, don't you want to draw? He said, I know, just let it be. If I want to draw a person, I draw like some sticks, and he said, you know why there are those that know how to draw, and those that don't, other than having some predisposition, because all of us usually drew when we were children, and then there were those that stopped doing that and those that kept on doing that, and I was one of those that stopped. It's not something that I'm proud of, but the point is that when we don't do something, we lose the capacity of doing something. The more we do something, the more that capacity, that skill becomes capable. And what we need in life is not to have, but to be. We need to be people with a good capacity of discernment. We need to be people with a good capacity of connection, of balance, not to have many things. We can also just ask a question to ourselves: the suffering that is in society, in our society today, if we think about our society, it's much more mental suffering rather than physical suffering, isn't it? For example, also the levels of stress with which we find ourselves. I don't know, have you ever felt stressed? Where does stress come from? From physical threats or from mental threats? Because stress is a response to threats. No one gets stressed because of physical fatigue. No one spends a day walking in the woods and comes back stressed. Comes back physically tired but not stressed. Cortisol is low, not high. Stress is an answer that is fundamental, is necessary, important of our system in front of a threat. Either you run or you fight and face the threat, or you freeze. Our tendency is more to either run or face. And so stress is a response that is also right in front of a threat. But by all means, what external threats do you have in your life? Okay, think a little bit about your life. What threats do we have to which we need to react? Is there like some danger for survival? Are there some physical threats of danger as one gets out of his house? Do we live in a dangerous world externally or in a safe world? And I'm talking about Milan. Quite safe. Then there are some rules that one needs to respect. Okay, you cross on the zebras with the green light. If you don't respect some rules, then of course there are places that are more safe and less safe and so on. But if we take like the lives of ourselves today and the lives of 2 generations ago, which ones were more safe? Like for example, when winter comes, what physical threat did they have once? The cold. Now the danger of the cold is between like the house and the car. Yeah. And then you have the jacket and the hat and the gloves and everything. Famine, hunger. Is it like an actual threat that we have? So, what actual threats do we have? From this point of view, we should all be relaxed with no level of stress, because we don't have threats. But it's strange to say that the person of today lives under many more threats than a couple of generations ago. For example, let's say that at home, uh, when I was a kid in front of my parents, I go to school and I give an exam, I do something, and somewhere I want to show to my parents that I am good at that thing, and there is an expectation from the side of the parents about what I'm doing. Then, okay, that can happen. For example, a kid when he goes to school, is there like some pressure about the votes that he needs to take home? Isn't there? Imagine there is. I think I had it when I was a kid. I think it's something quite diffused, and I also believe that there is like an idea that if a parent doesn't do like at least a minimum of pressure on the votes, then you don't care about the children. So I'm there. There are the exams. I don't know what is the answer yet. I know that at home there will be problems if I didn't go well at the exam. Is there a threat or not? The threat is not physical, it's a worry. I do something, I look for approval. I did something, it went well or not. We see it also with young children when a child did something. What do? Ah, good boy, a good girl. Why? Because you look for approval. And when I do something and I'm not receiving the approval and I'm not sure whether I will receive the approval or the disapproval, there is a threat of the disapproval in there, and it's a mental threat. This what I'm talking about has always existed, like always, like so to speak, like since a very long time. Now, okay, I post something online. What is the level of approval or disapproval in front of which I find myself? The same one that I would find at home is much more immediate. Is much more immediate and much greater. You can just think the fact that one of the greatest fears that is described is the fear of talking in public. And today, since when we were kids, everyone is placed in front of the judgment of the public, and here there is a great threat. Will people like it or not? And what happens if one says this or that, or thinks this or that? One of the threats under which we live today is the threat of the judgment of the other. We have the threat of being or not being approved. And this is one of the examples. And this is something that even is diffused in many aspects. One of the things that I personally don't like, this is my personal thing, for example, the matter of doing evaluations on activities like hotels, for example, give stars and make some comments and these kind of things. First of all, it has happened many times to be in a hotel or a restaurant or whatever, and to see the person that is there serving you, and that you see that behind that person there is some fear. You can never know about some negative judgment. So it's not anymore something between me and you, like we are in front of a public. Are we there on it? I remember one of the first times that I did a trip and I booked a room on Airbnb, and I go away and there was a review on me, and I'm like, okay, what is this? Why is there like something on me? And also telling things about me that actually were not true according to me about what had happened. What a strange thing, I thought, because something that is between me and you. For example, that time there were some things about the house that I wanted to say about the house, but on purpose I told him or her on private, because it seemed like a lack of respect to say something that was a bit delicate in front of the others. It didn't seem respectful. But this is now part of daily life. And this is one of the sources of stress, because here there is a threat. And the interesting thing, as we have already said many times, when we are in front of a mental threat, imaginary threat, the body reacts in the same way as if we were in front of a physical threat. And we have a quantity of mental threats and worries. What if this happens, or if that goes like that? I don't know. Me this morning I had a meeting for the management of the center, and one of the questions that I asked was, do we want to do something to forecast, um, to anticipate the cost of the increases of the cost of the gas, because that will probably be there, because it's not like exactly like a small apartment. So let's look for alternatives to not be there tomorrow, that we will be in some difficult situations. So okay, you look for solutions and so on. My luck is that when I'm in front of the problem, I think about it. When I'm not there, then I don't think about it. Otherwise, I would always be stressed by all these subjects. But what I would like to bring up is that we live in a reality, in a society, in a modern society, where we have a lot of threats. But these threats are mental. And what is the most important resource that we have in order to be able to live in this modern world without being under stress? Our inner capacity, not external. The qualities that we learn, the way that we see ourselves, the way with which we relate with the other, the value that we give to the judgment of the other, and many other aspects, our resilience, our flexibility, our capacity of taking us back to the present moment, our experience and knowledge to be able to take some coherent decisions and not to get in a paranoid loop of fears. And so I really invite everyone to learn, to open the mind to new things, not because we need to produce, because this is a strange idea that I don't know where does it come from. That the important thing is to produce, to do. And we got to a sort of caricature where we produce some things that are super incredibly well made with many things inside that lack the soul. Because in 3 seconds, okay, just throw some things at artificial intelligence and then it generates like a beautiful report or description or whatever. And then I don't know that. I haven't gone through the process to get there. And so I go there, I produce this. I have, more or less. I ask to produce this in order to be precise. Okay, let's say that I say I produced it so that I can be proud of it. But at the end, in that process, what did I learn? Nothing. The first time that I lived this on my own skin was once, I think 1 year has already passed, I imagine. A friend asked me, look Lama, there has been another Lama tells me, there has been this prayer, Master had died, and there was a prayer that was composed shortly after that, and he asked me, I need a translation of this prayer. That verses were in Tibetan in a poetic way. It was about 8 verses, something like that, 8 verses, I don't remember. And he said, can you translate it? I need it for tomorrow. And then it was like a context. where I had a hard time to say no, and so I was like, okay, I try. I'm able to translate from Tibetan. But in that moment, there were two factors. Time was short. It's not that I didn't have uh, things to do during the day. There was a bit of laziness because I could have, uh, after dinner, I could have said there to do it. But in the moment, I said, okay, let's try. And I took one of the artificial intelligences that seemed the best at that moment, and I gave it the task, and it did a wonderful job. And I fixed 3 or 4 things that were wrong, that seemed, which seemed better to me, and I sent it to my friend. And I was like, hey, look, I didn't translate it. I corrected the translation that I got there as to get done. And up to now, it seems okay, like a nice story that it went well. But when we see this, okay, we say, "How beautiful! I wanted to do something. I had a little time, and I found a tool that allowed me to do it in a better way. They wanted the translation that was quick, and I didn't have much time, and I managed to do it in time. They received the translation. They were happy. What a wonderful story!" Except what came after that. I Some time after that, I am there again wanting to translate something else, and I saw in a place inside of me one, a certain laziness to translate, and the wish to ask just directly to artificial intelligence, which I did. And then the thing got worse, because the third time, not only I had the wish to ask artificial intelligence, I lacked the trust in myself. I started to translate, and then I was like, let me check if it's right. Until a certain day, I asked to translate something, and it did like a terrible job. And it was the mental training in 7 points, this text that is very beautiful but difficult to translate. And it did really a terrible job. And I was like, great. Then I got back some self-esteem. I can do better than that. But I saw how quickly we lose the capacity and the self-esteem, the trust in ourselves. It's scary. And so we cannot do without writing. To say, okay, we abandon writing because anyway, it makes it so that we can't store things inside of ourselves, in our memory. Because when I think at the beginning of the times of Buddha, for 300 years, the teachings of Buddha were never written because people had a good level of memory. They heard once and they will remember. I don't know. Grandparents, did they have a better memory than we do or not? And I can assure you that even much more the great grandparents and so on, because the less is the possibility of storing something outside, the more I have to keep it inside. I don't know who remembers phone numbers. I am still of that generation when I was a kid that you would remember some phone numbers. If you tell a kid of today to memorize some phone numbers, what is it, like a challenge, a game? You would say, but the problem is not that I don't know the numbers. Okay, 2 or 3, I still have them, like the phone number of my grandparents. So when I will call my when I will call my grandmother, she had the habit of repeating the phone number so that you could make sure that it was right. But it's not a problem to not know phone numbers by heart, but to lose the capacity of memorizing. And okay, we can also say that maybe that is not a big problem because the point is not to know many things by heart. The goal is to be a balanced person that is satisfied, loving, joyous. But one of the very important things in our lives, in the middle of all of this, is to have a good discernment. We live also in a society where the choices of the society are made partly by individuals, the so-called democracy. From this point of view, one of the most precious resources of democracy is the discernment of the citizens, isn't it? Because if I'm not able to discern, really, if I go to vote without a minimum of discernment, what contribute am I giving? If not that of being uh, dragged away, by hoping being dragged by something good. But in order to have a good discernment, I must be able to have to be aware, to have experience, to have a good capacity of reasoning. And we are getting in a time where we put these things aside. And like as writing has also some as good sides, it has also dark sides. And it's that side where we don't need to simulate things because anyway we have them there. I don't know if it has ever happened to you to buy a book and to have that feeling that you have that knowledge because it's there in the book. Me, there's been a time when I came to live from India to Italy. Um, among the various things that I there brought, there was like my collection of books, and there were those that collection of Tibetan books were placed there up the, on the altar. It was like 200 or 300 books, like as big like this. They were all there, like the books written by Lama Tsongkhapa, by Bonka Rinpoche, by all the Pancha Ramas, by Trijja Rinpoche. Many important books. And one day I was looking at that, but you know what? I take a picture of all the books put there like that. I print it again, like in a real size. I give away the books and I just put the picture there because I'm not reading them anyway. And then it occurred that when there was the building of the temple and we got to do the upper part, when we was in a banyan, you can see the roof, and then upper that up from that there is like a sort of smaller room, golden, and inside of that you have the most precious objects, and among that also the books, all the books from Buddha, from Lama Tsongkhapa, all the books from Lama Gangchen, Pabonka Rinpoche, and my collection of books ended up there because the one that was there at the center was not organized well when it was needed. So then I talked with Lama Gangchen and it was like, okay, let's just take mine objects of attachment. So I was happy that it stayed there, and I never put the picture. I just left an empty space and just like putting one book there, not just to leave it completely empty. But my thought has had been, okay, in this moment of my life, I cannot read, not because I don't have the time, but because I fill the time with other things. I lost the habit at this point of taking those 2 or 3 hours a day to read because, okay, we all have time. Let's be honest. There are days, some days where you have honestly a little bit less time, that you go home out at 8 in the morning, you come back, I come back from at 11 in the evening, and it's more difficult. But there are other days where I have like a couple of hours to read. But we have so many distractions that at the end we are occupied with other things. You can just take those moments where one just takes the phone or the laptop and just scrolling the news or something else, and to replace that with a book. But it's more like, okay, we have the feeling that we have the book, so we have the knowledge, it's there. And that's very tricky. Today we are going from that to artificial intelligence, where I don't need to learn, I don't need to know, I don't need to experience. There is something there that is ready. that I can just ask in whatever moment, and then of course, like writing, if you we would say we are ready to abandon writing and to go back to memory, what would be the answer? No. We are ready as a society uh, to say, okay, we abandon completely artificial intelligence. Some of us, yes, because we grew up in a time that was without that, but you just need to let a few years pass, and then the answer will mostly be no. But the most important point for me is what is my priority, having or being? Because as time passes, as day passes, experience pass, what do I become? What do I learn? What experiences do I do? This is really, really important. And so, when, for example, in this beautiful text that is called the Garland of the Jewels of the Bodhisattva, that it talks about the Arya jewels, there is, for example, the jewel of faith, which is not blind faith, but is having trust in what really sustains our happiness, to give a clear direction to our life. To have faith is worth much more than having billions in the bank account, because when one has a clear direction in life and has trust in that, then life develops quite well. But when direction is lacking, we can be full of resources around us and we can get lost in our own house. I don't know if this is clear. Faith needs to be cultivated. It's not something that either it's there or not. And how do you cultivate it? Through advertisement. For example, thinking about like a safe car that is also fast. Does some brand come to your mind? Can you think about something? Probably there are some cars that can come to my mind, to our mind, that we have never driven. And why do they come to our mind? Why do we have trust that that is a good car? Because they told us that story so many times. They told us the story that is a good car and it has this characteristic and that other characteristic. And the more we heard that story, the more we hear that story, then bit by bit we believe in that story. And so we have faith in that. Advertisement is where you go, where you talk about the existence of something, about its characteristics and qualities and benefits, and often you put that in a way to believe that it's possible for us and it will be good for us. And the more I listen to that story, and the more that story presents itself to me as real. And so I follow that. I have asked myself sometimes, why does Coke still do advertisement? Isn't it enough what is sold, or how much everywhere they use it, how much everyone knows it? But they're not stupid, and they need to keep the desire alive, to keep faith alive. I am thirsty. What do I want? That. Fortunately, I was able to get beyond that. I was able to direct towards something else. But what happens is that in order for me to believe into something, I need to know that's that, I need to repeat it. It's not for anything that advertising is one of the greatest businesses that there are. Why do you repeat that thing 20 times a day so that people can hear that thing constantly? Because what I see leaves an influence on me. And when I see something, it doesn't matter how many times, it doesn't matter where I believe in, whether I believe it in that moment or not, it leaves something in me. Once I saw an advertisement in Brazil that made me reflect. It was the house of my dad, and I got into a room. There was a TV on, and there were some images that were very beautiful of nature. Really like images of Amazon. I remember like these beautiful birds flying, the waterfalls, beautiful, wonderful images of nature. And not even like one word, just like music and beautiful images from nature. But it wouldn't last like 10 seconds or 5 seconds. 10 is already a lot for advertisement. It was like 30 seconds. It was very long. And at the end of this advertisement, they don't say a word. It gives like this image of nature. I still have it impressed in my mind. And from there, you have like the Shell logo arising. And then just that, it ends. And what is this doing? Like trying to nourish that logo with some meaning. Okay, I see nature and I think about nature, and then I see that logo and I connect nature with that logo, whether I want it or not. What happens is that constantly we are bombed by advertisement, both in the format of advertisement and non-advertisement. Also, like news, what other people tell us, and so on. We receive a lot of information on where to put our energy, on what is possible, what is not possible, and so on. And it's important for us to do some advertisement for ourselves, and to choose what advertisement we want to look at by asking ourselves, where do I want to direct myself, what do I want to realize. Because we need some advertisement that shows images like, okay, how beautiful would your life be with more patience, rather than, okay, uh, and also, for example, a happy family that listens one to the other. But you don't sell this, you can't sell these things. And what happens is that we need to develop faith, and faith in saying things. And this faith is not developed from nowhere, it needs to be built up. And so I invite everyone to go through this sort of positive brainwashing, and we already do that. Positive or not, I don't know, but we already go through it, because each and every information that we acquire leaves an imprint inside of ourselves. It conditions us. It's like the example that I gave a few times, that if I will come to you today and I will start talking badly about someone, okay, we take like 20 seconds to talk badly about Devadatta. Devadatta was the cousin of Buddha that tried to kill Buddha 5 times. I was very envious of Buddha, and let's say that Devadatta is alive. And I come to you and say, okay, look, that Devadatta is really, really a bad person. You can't really trust Devadatta at all. If you see Devadatta, it's better to change your path just to get close to him. Somehow he is able to harm you. He's really a mean person with no principles whatsoever, and that's already enough. And so, like, I talk those 15, 20 seconds badly about Devadatta, and then 20 years later, you mean Devadatta. Let's say that you don't suffer from Alzheimer's disease. Is there an influence from what it has been said or not? 20 years later, you see Devadatta. Yeah, but what? I need to. What do you think? I need to meet him now. I need to get to know him now, or maybe is there an influence? So can you imagine those things that you see again and again every day? And so we are not indifferent in front of the information that we receive, what we see, what we hear, what we read. Not only they are information, but they also work inside of us and that determine our choices. And so it's fundamental what I what kind of information I feed myself on. In in my own little, when I want to have some information on about news, sometimes I like to go like once a day or something like that to look at the news, and I took the choice as of today to choose of to choose two articles and to read them all the way. But I also try to compare different sources of information with different politics, different orientations, and it's interesting to see the same news told in different ways. Because I want to have a capacity of choice of discernment as complete as possible. I want to have various information sources to then be able to get to my own conclusion. But when we acquire information, we must remember that what we are acquiring as information, it's not something that is left outside, that remains outside, but it's something that transforms us inside. And just like the information that is outside in the book is not inside, the information that enters works inside. And so sometimes we rely upon something that is outside and we don't give importance to something that gets inside. I have the feeling that we acquire a lot of information as if they're worth nothing. It's like some scientific research that they did, and according to me, okay, was not necessary, but as a result, it was excellent. Okay, the result was obvious already from the beginning, and they saw that the kids, like from a young, from teenagers to young adults, that played a lot of violent video games had a greater predisposition to a violent reaction towards various situations in life. Just as there are studies that show that in United States, the kids that are the guys that are getting in the army now have less difficulties in killing rather than in the Second World War or the First World War. Like most kids, they grow up with video games where they virtually kill with the same modes that you use in the army. But when I go from spending hundreds and thousands of hours killing virtually, then I am training myself to do that. There is a lot of information that is getting inside. When there is like something and I react with that, and then I give also another example. It's like a taboo subject, but no problem. There is a really big problem of violence in our society that the young guys often learn the part on sexuality from pornography. This is a problem that came after the internet era, where something before internet, a guy wanted to look at something pornographic, had to do like mortal jumps. Remember when I was a kid, like 11 years old, I had the older friend, wanted to buy like a prohibited magazine for under 18, and he found like the escamotage to find someone to give him money and to buy it for you, and then it was like nothing like really special. So now it's a level of accessibility that is extremely great, and and we also see the fruits already now that the guys learn how to relate sexually by having as a point of reference pornography, which very often is extremely violent. And that seems what is normal. someone a while ago, by looking at this problem more from closer, seeing how it was serious, he said, "Okay, Lama, we should do the porno dharma. We should somehow get to help to teach in a more sane way." And my point here now is that, okay, the information that we receive, they don't remain outside, they work inside. And I cannot think that looking at certain images with violence, then they will not work inside of me. That listening to some kind of talks, that will not work inside of me, and so on. And so when we talk about the importance of being, the first two of this inner richness that is described is the richness, is the wealth of faith that is about what I want, what I believe in, and the wealth of knowledge. The information that I receive determine what I have inside of me, and the experiences that I have also. And so we're not here to do some criticism about society. We are here to go through a self-analysis on the lives of each one of us. It's a bit like when I eat something. When before putting something in our mouth, do we think about it or not? I hope we do. Me, after the various allergies that I had, I have the fixation of reading all the ingredients because I have various allergies. And you start to see, okay, this thing is more sane, that thing is a bit less, this is fine, this is not. But I don't put something in my mouth just like that because I have in front of me. And similarly, what I put in my eyes, in my ears, they they nourish my being. And we need to look with a certain attention. Because I repeat once again, our goal is not to have a good channel of information, but to inform us well. Not to have some good inner information, but to have a good capacity of discernment and of choice, other than the influence from an emotional level that all of this creates. Because, for example, if I receive some information that increase my fear of threats, my mental threats, then they increase also my stress level. And the majority, from what I understood, many of the diseases that we have now are caused by chronic stress. And it's one of the main causes of cancer, because chronic stress equals high cortisol, and so chronic inflammation, which creates a lot of problems. And so, what information do we receive? And this makes it come to my mind once that I was in Nepal with Lama Gangchen, and we were going to meet a very old monk, a Theravada monk, an important master. And when we went to meet him, he at the time was like 90 years old, something like that. An extremely kind person with a very wonderful story and so on. Before getting in and to meet him, there was his assistant, and he said, "Look, there is one rule before going to meet him. His doctor made me swear that I wouldn't talk to him about bad things because he has a very weak heart, and when he sees someone that is feeling bad, when there seems something wrong, he cares a lot, he gets a lot of worries. For example, he's very interested about the world, and he wants me to read the news to him every day. He can't do that on his own because he can't see, but in order to save his heart, I transform the news. And so I read everything like in a wonderful way. So please don't talk to him about bad things." I don't believe that's the most coherent thing to do with someone to manipulate information or news, but the information that I give you is what you what nourishes you, what you feed on. And then, of course, everyone has his own capacity of discernment and so on, but it's not a joke. Other than the fact that, and I don't want to get into the details because I've already talked about it many times, of the addiction that we have, not of the content, but of the stimulation. And this is another problem, which is also very serious, because these addictions create a level of weakness, of emotional fragility that is not indifferent. We see more and more in the new generations, we see less resilience, less emotional stability, isn't it? This is what I see. This is what, by talking with people, comes out. And one of the causes of this, according to me, is the strong level of addiction that there is today towards the digital world. And so, to have against to be, what do I want to be and how do I cultivate that? To me, it doesn't matter to have beautiful dogs so that I can go around and say, look how beautiful I have because I have beautiful dogs. What I care about is the relationship that I have with them and how good that is for me and how that transforms me. Because when there is a relationship where you take care one of the other and you're able to receive and exchange affection, that transforms us in a positive way. The house where we live is not important where we live, what is the house, but is it a place where we feel good? Is it a place where, okay, it is said that a good house is a house where once you get into the bedroom, you feel like sleeping. When you get into the living room, you feel like reading, chatting. When you sit at the table of dinner, you feel like eating and so on. And this is one of the descriptions of a good house according to the Vashtu Shastra, an ancient Indian art of architecture of how to build the houses and so on. A house that doesn't work well is a house where you go to the living room or dining room and the hunger goes away, you go to the bedroom and you wake up and okay, this is a house that is not working. But it's a place that has a function so that I can be, and not in order to uh, talk about people in a utilitarian way, but the relationship that we have with people is not like something we can own. I can say, okay, my wife, my husband, my partner, my friend, my this and my that, I can be proud and so on. But the key in a relationship is not to have the other, is in what way the interaction with the other transforms me. It is said that a healthy relationship that is good and needs to be cultivated is a relationship that, aside from being pleasant or not, transforms me in a positive way. If me, through the interaction with you, I learn some important things, I develop some qualities that are positive, so I develop more patience, more gratitude, I familiarize with beautiful things, I face my own shadows and so on. Wow, how beautiful, what a beautiful relationship I have. Maybe it's difficult for some aspects, but if I have a relationship that for as much it can be pleasurable, then it increases my bad habits and I become more jealous or something else. If I transform myself in a way that is unhealthy, then it's not a good relationship. And so I don't want to say that we need to relate with people in a utilitarian way. What's your use for me, but also not in a possessive way, like to own you. You're a part of my life, I'm part of your life. We interact, and when we interact, we transform each other. And in what way? in a positive or negative way? Being next to you helps me to be a better person, or does it go in the opposite direction, or is it neutral? This is fundamental because, among other things, when we transform ourselves, or better, what we become is what we bring with ourselves from year to year, from decade to decade, and then eventually from life to life. Because for as much as I can have material wealth, at the end I will die. So one day comes and bye bye. I've already told you more times, like, of who asked me to bring that person some money to the next life, and it was not a bad idea because like it was a very very rich person, among the most the richest people in Brazil. And he told me, Lama, but you in the in Tibetan Buddhism, don't you have like this thing about finding reincarnations? How does it work? And I explained him, but listen, one thing. Okay, if I make like a trust and I put there, let's say, $200 million, it's a person that has much more, definitely a few billions. So I just put there at 200 million. So for now, it doesn't change anything to me. And just for the doubt, and I give to someone valid the task of finding my reincarnation. It keeps a percentage, and the remaining goes to my next life. According to me, the business of the transfer of heritage from life to life is a very great business, but I will never trust anyone to do this. And anyone that will do this, also, I think that you need like really a thick hair on your stomach, because that means to really trick the other, really also believing in reincarnation. So, okay, if you expect something from me, just forget about it. But aside of these hopes that one can try to find, for as much as I have accumulated at the moment of death, then bye bye. Not only at the moment of death, because also during life, the things that value the most and that really sustain our happiness. It's not how much the house is beautiful, or the car, or how much money you have on the bank account, whether you have clothes of this brand or the other, but what is the quality of the human relationships that I have? Me, can I trust someone? Do I feel loved, and do I allow myself to love or not? This is what is worth the most of anything. And it's like once a friend that was very rich, and he had a plane crash, and for a strange reason of different conditions, both him and the whole family of him were safe. But for just like it could have gone like as a terrible disaster, but it was nothing like serious. And as a sentence that he told me, it was like, okay, look, I learned that it's more important the picture rather than the frame. And the importance is not about where you are, but how you are and with whom you are. It's not important whether the hotel is very beautiful or whether the house is like this and like that, but how do you feel inside that? How with whom are you inside that? And often we get so preoccupied with the frame, and we believe that the picture is beautiful because the frame is beautiful. But that's just a huge illusion. And so let's concentrate, let's focus on cultivating what actually sustains our happiness, what sustains a healthy, sane life. And unfortunately, they're not things that you can buy or that you can obtain from one day to the other. They are things that you can cultivate. which are human relationships and inner qualities. And then also health, of course, it's not bad to have it, both mental and physical. But at the end, all of this going around and around is a matter of the directions that we give in life. Because if we check a bit, we are here, it's going to end in a little while. There are those that will go home, there are those that will go to eat something, then you go back to daily life, you go to sleep, maybe someone will look at a movie, someone will read something, someone maybe will have a discussion. Then tomorrow starts, and then everyone has to do his own thing, and we start one thing after the other, and I have the job here and there. Like me, as I was coming from a banana, I was going through my agenda and the details of that, and it's so full until the end of this year, and like almost, yeah, like quite full until the end of 2027. And that's not a problem because I've also learned to fill it with important things. But what happens is that life goes on, doesn't stop. There are so many things that needs to be done. It just pushes. Today there is this, and then tomorrow there is that. There are new problems coming, new pleasures to live. And at the end, as Atisha was saying, during the day we are distracted, during the night we sleep. The objects of knowledge are many, and in a while we're going to die. The point is that life passes quickly, and during life we transform. And if I get to a certain point and say, I need a better discernment, that discernment, we acquire it through years, not just from one day to the other. That patience, we acquire it with time. That love, that gratitude, that awareness, those healthy relationships of love and trust with the others, they're not acquired from one day to the other. They are acquired during daily life. And I ask you, is it easy or difficult? It's difficult, and I agree with that. If it was easy, then we would all be Buddhas, wouldn't we? Why is it difficult? Because it means to walk against the current. Why do we need effort? Because it means to do things that go against our habits. It means to look at each other in the eyes and to face one's own shadows, to recognize one's own habits that don't work and to try to avoid them. To try to create some sane habits that don't come natural and spontaneous. To change habit is very tiring, and even more when we are full of distractions in between. But it's possible. And in order to do that, what we need, first of all, is to want to do that. And me, what I feel that it is a bit my task here today is to advertise. And that is also why it's fine to repeat the same thing 30 times, because it's the nature of advertising also. If my task here will be that of teaching, then okay, 15 minutes will be enough for many things. I've explained once and it's even recorded, okay, bye bye, then who wants can listen to that again. But no, we need to generate desire, passion, to look at, okay, congratulations for your dogs, then and to laugh about it. Yes, the dogs are beautiful, but what do I have to do with that? The car or the clothes or whatever. What I really need to be proud of is should be my patience, my calmness, my satisfaction, my joy, my love, my gratitude, my peace. my sane principles. About this, yeah, I could say that. Yeah, yes, it's me. Maybe a little bit more humility, but that's fine anyway. It's okay. Somehow it's good anyway. That's a further step. Before that, it's better to uh, brag about patience or these kind of things rather than the car, because we can brag about something that we are, not about something that we have. And then we get to a point where it's not anymore the fact of bragging, but to be joyous, satisfied, to have a good self-esteem, where I don't need anymore what the other thinks of me. And this is a point that I don't want to open now too much, but when we are really able to value the quality, the inner quality, and the way that helps us, and the process with which we do that, without caring a lot about the judgment of the other, that takes away a lot of stress. Me, an experience that I had personally, I was I was put to speak in public since when I was a kid. One of the first times was actually here when I was 13 years old. I was 95 or something like that. I was here at the company. Lama Gangchen was there, sitting there. The compa was quite full, like today. And Lama Gangchen told me, okay, say something now. You say something. And I was like, I told myself, okay, to make life easier for me, you ask questions. And then I remember some of them asking questions, and from there, Lama Gangchen often will put me in situations where there will be congresses or public places, but congresses with like thousands of people, and it was the honor guest. He would take me with him, and then he was like, "Okay, now you talk. What should I say, Rinpoche? Whatever you want." And me, I tried to say something that had some sense. And the key for me has always been I'm here in front of the others, not for me, but for the others. And this, what does it mean? That I'm here to offer something. If someone likes it, then good. If someone doesn't like it, then I'm sorry, I offered my best, but not here to receive a feedback whether the others like it or not, whether I'm good or not. And I got used to this. And then the past year, I received an email at a certain point from a man called Andrea, and he said, "Look, I am an editor. I would like to write a book with you. I come to visit you." And I said, "Okay." I work for a publishing house. Okay, then he comes, we talk, and I said, "Look, I heard your teachings. I like them, and so I give you white paper. You can write a book on whatever you want." This seems like a nice thing. I said, "Okay." And then some time passed, and okay, I have many things to do because I tried to say yes to everyone. And at the end, one day, I realized that okay, maybe I need to write that book. And then okay, I cancel a retreat that I had, a personal retreat, and I sit there to write the book. And I was facing then a problem. I was never used to writing, and I'm still not used to that. I quit school when I was 12 years old. As I was 12 years old, I went to India to study uh, philosophy. Yeah, so I stopped studying Portuguese grammar when I was 12 years old. So I found myself okay with this problem of writing. Of, but then okay, my problem was, will I do it well? How will it be seen? Am I doing something that works, or is it like it's just like something stupid? And what helped me was the same thing that helped me when at the beginning I started to talk. That was the thought, what will the others think of me is not the important thing. The important thing is that I have an opportunity to offer something. Who likes it, then good. Who doesn't like it, doesn't like it. If you don't, you read, you don't like it, I'm sorry. Well, you read it and you like it, then good for you. Because the moment that one takes away from himself the weight of the thought of the judgment of the other, especially when we are in front of the other, you know, can you imagine how light you become? And this is an example for me to say that the way with which we live things changes completely the dynamic of the situations. If we want to live a life without stress, which I wish to everyone, at least with less stress, then definitely without a level of chronic stress. Without stress completely is difficult because like when there are threats you need to face them, but definitely a life without chronic stress. If we want to live a life with a minimum level of harmony, of balance, of joy, we need to cultivate the qualities that allow us to do that. And that's a possible thing. It's not like something that no one of us can do. And let's remember that it's never too late and it's never too soon also. If we are able to dedicate, I won't say 24 hours a day, but if we're able to dedicate in the whole of one day, like 2 hours of awareness, that already changes life. If we are able to simply remember that every situation that we live is an opportunity for us to train ourselves in a direction or another. I am in the car going to a meeting that is extremely important that I've been waiting for 2 years. At a certain point, I find myself on the ring road towards on the highway towards Bergamo, and there is that point where I was stuck in traffic like at midnight sometimes. And at a certain point there is a car crash and I am stuck. I'm stuck there and I see that I'm about to miss that meeting, and that the next time that I will be able to get it again, I don't know when will it be. I will never get the money back, and it's very important for me. What choices do I have? I can leave the car there and walk and take a taxi and something like that. I've already seen someone doing this. My father did that once in Brazil. There was someone else, okay, in the car, and he just went down from the car in the middle of the traffic. Otherwise, what other choices do I have? I can get angry. I can be disappointed. I can blame who did the crash. I can blame anyone. Or I can breathe and to be sorry about the appointment, but look at the opportunity that I have to practice patience, to remember to myself that I am not omnipotent in this world. I am a little part of the complex interdependence, and things happen for causes and conditions, and it's a special opportunity to not get into dynamics that I am already used to. And if I do this and I end that day in the same way without, I mean, by having missed the appointment, but I have grown as a person, I've learned something new, I've become a little bit better. So if we are able to remember that every encounter that we have, every situation that we live is an opportunity to train, to transform oneself, and that we have the direction that where do we want to go in the sense of who do we want to be, that by itself already changes a lot. And so I invite you to reflect with attention, with affection, on what is more important, to have or to be. And during our days, what am I cultivating? The being or having? And what being am I also cultivating? And the same thing also falls on, okay, I have to translate a text. It's not a matter about just having the translated result, but also the path that transforms me. What do I learn in the process of translation? And so let's also try, I leave also another point of reflection. We have the capacity of having a good discernment to make a sane use of technology that we have at our disposal, from the written one to also artificial intelligence. But we also have the law of the minimum effort that can trick us. And I don't wish anyone for of tomorrow to be like in the mind gym, because also already now is absurd that one has to walk just on the spot and climb the steps on the spot, do the bicycle on the spot, to be in closed in a room to lift some weights. I don't know if you can imagine the level of absurdity that there is in this. I don't know. Do you share this or not? We have removed some physical fatigues of our lives to then be able to pay in order to do that. I don't know, because like the same one that lifts some weights in the gym, if he has to take the water in the outside of the house, then it will say, no, that's too difficult. The farmer doesn't go to the gym. So what we are doing is that we have replaced physical efforts with machines in order to be able to not put physical effort, and now we have to go to the gym in order to not get sick. And now we're doing also the same with mental effort. And in a while, in order to not all be like this, sooner or later we will have to go in mental gyms where you go and you pay in order to do some repetitive exercises of this and that, to train memory, to train concentration, to train discernment and the capacity of research and so on, because we don't use it anymore. Let's be careful to not get into that. So let's reflect what is more important for us, whether to have or to be. And according to what we believe is important, let's give energy and direct our desires and our awareness in that, and then slowly that will manifest bit by bit. The key is what I want. If I really desire something, then I put energy in that, and then somehow that gets manifested. I've learned that in many situations, okay, maybe big projects, I have some complex projects in my mind, that, but I saw that the key is to desire them, to dream that, even if that seems impossible. And from like a dream, like something here comes, something there, and then when the conditions one day are created, then the things can be materialized. But then you need to dream first of all, by starting from dreaming about who do we want to be. And that is the greatest project that we have in our lives, not in a selfish way, but in the also altruistic way, altruistic sense of being someone useful for this world, which is already a lot. Now let's make our dedications. at dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and to sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Thank you, everyone.